Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers. Talking about an interesting book here. Many of you will know the author. It's called Medical Negligence. This is the book here. It's by Michael Jones. Now, this is the cover of the new 4th edition. You can see it's red. The Flickr cover is actually still in blue. One of the problems I've got is that I haven't got the new pack shot yet. But obviously the review is on Flickr and elsewhere. You can see the book. It's a heavy book, this one. It follows the normal Sweet and Maxwell approach, huge number of cases at the front. Then we've got the nice paragraph numbering at the sides, which is extremely helpful, running all the way through, obviously, to the back, with quite a lot of detail and a very heavy, well-researched index. And the total number of pages, we're talking nearly 1,200 pages. It's a heavy book in both content and physically. Let's look a little bit at what it's about, because this is an area that I've been involved in with my practice. I've been teaching the subject because it's part of the overall concepts of tort, which many people will know from their student days. I've given it the title Medical Negligence, Emotive and Expanding. Reason for that is some of the comments actually in the book. The quote that we start off with is, people are getting more litigious. It is at least one inference that you can draw, certainly, from any number of contemporary legal texts, particularly those that deal with the vexed subject of medical negligence, which we obviously hear about, see on the TV and so forth. And of course it's simple, but an all-encompassing title here that Michael Jones has given for the book. And as I've indicated, many people will know Michael Jones because obviously he's written a number of works on tort, one of which I used many years ago for teaching purposes. Certainly the area, it's a specialist area, of medical negligence has expanded. When the opening edition was published in 1991, so it's obviously old now, 18 years old, it was first really complete as the definitive examination of this difficult area of law. Obviously you've had other works since which have looked at this particular area. Then as now, it was directed primarily at legal practitioners, very much the Sweet and Maxwell stable. Though I would hope, says Jones, that it will also make the law of medical negligence accessible to non-lawyers. And that, of course, is the key, because a lot of non-lawyers need to know about this information. So there's an excellent glossary, which I'll mention again later. He says, I think lawyer and layman alike, and I agree with this, would agree that in this aim he's amply succeeded here, and that's obviously what his intention was. The book's primarily concerned, therefore, with the tort of negligence applied in the specific context of the provision of health care, and Jones adds that he's sought to deal with all aspects of professional liability, with many arising out of medical treatment. It's got 13 chapters and 2 useful appendices, which are not too long. As I say, it's a heavy book and very detailed. With the advent of the groundbreaking 1st edition, Jones points out that although the book, in line with the subject matter, has expanded in length, the table of cases is now actually over 80 pages long. It maintains the same basic structure, which will be familiar, of course, to practitioners who over the past decade and a half have depended on this reliable, exhaustive and eminently readable guide to this complex subject. Since the last edition, that's the 3rd edition, was published 5 years ago, there have been further changes in the legal landscape, and we've got the NHS Redress Act 2006. Jones points out that there's still no detail available to flesh out the bones of the bare structure of the scheme established by the Act. We obviously have to wait and see what happens with the current economic climate. The author then goes on to refer to the changes that have taken place in mental health legislation, which I think is a big area. Frankly, the law's a mess, but we know that. But what we've got here are the statutory reforms incorporated from the Mental Capacity Act and the Mental Health Act 2007, from of course the old 1983 Act. And it makes some significant changes to that 83 Act, not least, as the author mentions, in abolishing the various categories of mental disorder, amending the rules on ECT treatment, and introducing a new regime of treatment for community patients. And obviously, without going into detail, there's quite a large change that's obviously been referred to. So these and other emerging issues are thoroughly dealt with by Jones, including specific areas such as consent to medical treatment. Always an important thing for a doctor, as any of you know who've been to hospital, including also things like defective products, confidentiality and the liability of hospitals. Also covered are things like defences, limitation periods, and of course current case law and applicable legislation. So, as I mentioned before, right at the back, the glossary is detailed and very helpful. It's always something we as barristers need, and it helps with the medical terms that are obviously referred to. What you've got in addition to that is a text of pre-action protocol and the resolution of clinical disputes, which is also covered. And there's the text of the NHS indemnity arrangements for clinical negligence claims in the NHS. Now, you'll know that there are other books about clinical negligence available. This is one of many, and it's eminently readable. As I say, if you've grown up with Jones, you'll probably find that you're quite at home with the way that he writes things. And of course, to keep you completely up to date, there's the biannual supplement which goes with it to cover later developments in the law. So if you specialise in this area of law, remember that medical negligence, this book, is frequently cited in court and is regarded as the most authoritative, in my view, work in the field, which is clearly still an emotive and expanding one. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.